Hello friends, in the previous lecture we have talked about that is ionic bond, the formation of an ionic bond as well as the formation of the covalent bond, taking the examples. And now let us talk about the difference between these two and side by side so that we could understand it in a better way, that is what is actually ionic bond and what is actually covalent bond with the help of an example also. So let us talk about it. So here now we are going to make the difference between the ionic bond and covalent bond. So what is actually the difference between them? Let us talk about it. So starting with the first point, that is it is formed by the transfer of electrons from an electropositive atom to an electronegative atom. So obviously this kind of bond, because as the name suggests, that is it is an ionic bond. An ionic bond, it is between the cation as well as anion. So obviously there would be a we could say that transfer of electron from an electropositive, because obviously the atoms which are more electropositive, they have the tendency to donate their electrons to the most electronegative atom that are around it, so as to form a bond between them, and that is how the transfer of electron takes place and the bond has been formed. But talking about the next one, that is it is formed by sharing of pair of electrons between two bonding atoms. So in covalent bond, basically the bond is formed because of the sharing of electrons, and that's the reason that this happens because of both the atoms have the same electronegativity, or having the small difference between their electronegativity's value, and that is how the covalent bond has been formed. So basically here the transfer of electron takes place, while here the sharing of electron takes place, and that's make them to be differentiated with each other. And now let us talk about the another one. So this were the things that we have discussed earlier also, but now we are going to discuss it side by side. But while talking about the another one, that is yes, electrostatic force of attraction is between the opposite charge ions that forms in the process. So in ionic bond, basically electrostatic force of attraction is being observed. The reason behind that is the cations and anions, they combine with each other so as to form a bond. So therefore this kind of positive charge or this kind of opposite charge that we see between these two different atoms, and that's the reason that the force of attraction is nothing but the electrostatic force of attraction, and because of which the bond has been formed. While talking about the covalent bond, so the covalent bond has no electrostatic force of attraction between the atoms, because we say that the both will have the same kind of electronegativity or the same value of electronegativity almost, and that's the reason that there is no possibility for one which is more positive while the other one is very much negative. So that doesn't happen in the covalent bond, and that is how we could see that no electrostatic force of attraction is being observed between the bond or between the two atoms that are forming covalent bond. So that's it. And let's talk about the another one, that is for ionic bond. So in formation of an ionic bond, one atom donates an electron to the other atom. Obviously this is what we have got to know earlier only, that is obviously because of the electrostatic force of attraction that is an ionic bond it makes, obviously it has to donate its electron to the one to which it has been forming a bond, like sodium NaCl. So NaCl is the one in which we could see ionic bond, because Na has the capability to donate its electron, and that is how the sodium will donate its electron so as to form sodium ion, while the chlorine will convert into chloride ion. So this is how the bond forms between these two. And talking about the covalent bond, that is in this formation of covalent bond, each atom contributes one electron. So we have taken an example like CH4 also. So obviously so as to obtain that is a stable electronic configuration, or we could say that is to satisfy their valency, obviously the electrons are being basically shared, and that shared pair of electrons basically contribute to the formation of that is covalent bond. And this is what I was talking about. And so these were the three differences that we have talked about, and let us talk about the more difference so that we could justify that is which one will form that is ionic bond and which one will form that is the covalent bond. So basically in this process oppositely charged ions are formed, and for covalent no ions are being formed during the bond formation. So we have did the bond hypercycle, and in that case also we have got to know that the ions are being formed because of due to formation of if we need a particular ionic bond, that is what we observe, then in that process basically the opposite charged ions are also being formed. So sodium is the one, suppose that is a very prominent example to showcase the ionic bond. So sodium is the one that will donate its electron, and that is how sodium will become positive, but meanwhile the chlorine will become negative, and that is how the force of attraction takes place between them, and that is the bond that forms between these two. And so the oppositely charged ions are being formed during the process of the bond formation. But meanwhile, we have discussed about the formation of methane. We have taken an example in that case. So while donating its electron also, carbon doesn't become an ion. And meanwhile, if it donates its electron, the hydrogen will become negative. But again, it will take its electron towards himself, because obviously the electrons are being shared. And that is the reason that we can't see the carbon to be positive or the carbon to be negative, or the hydrogen to be positive or the hydrogen is turning into a negative ion. So the neutrality has been maintained, and that is the reason that there is no ions that have been formed during the formation of a covalent bond, and that is what we observe. So the next thing that I want to talk about is, like, example we did earlier only, that is NaCl, like CaCl2. So these are basically the molecules that have basically ionic bond. While talking about the another one, that is if I'm talking about, that is CH4. So if I'm talking about like CH4, so CH4 is basically the one which forms covalent bond. And talking about the another one, I could take an example like other molecules like H2 also. So this forms covalent bond. And there are also certain major difference that I want to talk about this one. That is usually ionic bonds are being showcased by the one which has a metal atom in it, and the one which consists of a non-metal. So here also you could see that sodium is a metallic atom or element, and it is combined with that of fluorine, which is non-metal. And again, calcium and chlorine. So it observes, because the metals are the one that have the capability to donate its electron, and that's the reason the metals are the one which are electropositive. And the non-metals, usually the p-block elements, most of it that we know, that they have the capability to gain electrons, and the one which are basically halogen groups. So obviously they are more electronegative, and that's the reason they forms ionic bond with that of the metallic atoms, and that is what we have observed over here. But talking about that is CH4. So these are the two non-metals that we could see, and talking about H2 again. So these are the common things that we could observe, and we could say that that would be a presence of a either ionic bond, or there will be presence of an ionic that is covalent bond. So it is usually we could predict that one. So that was a point that we could also justify, that is which one can form ionic and which one can form covalent. But it is there are also certain parts that we are going to study in the future lecture. That is the molecule that we could see that it is a covalent bond, but still it will have a polar nature, or that kind of lecture that we are going to look out in our future one. And that's it. So thank you friends for watching this video. I hope you have understood this video very clearly, and you have got to know the difference between these two. And I hope you'll share this video with the friends, and don't forget to subscribe Ekeeda channel. Thank you so much.